Picture yourself sitting in the farthest corner of the stadium, miles from the main stage. You're thinking, oh well, I'll probably just be watching the big screen the whole time. But then, he runs straight toward the end of the catwalk, right in your direction. And within seconds, Park Jimin is standing just a few meters in front of you, freestyle dancing to a moment that doesn't exist in any set list anywhere in the world. Welcome to the BTS Arirang World Tour, and welcome to the new era of Jimin, who is not simply a singer but a complete performer who has made every single corner of the 360-degree stage entirely his own. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe, because today we are going through every single piece of evidence that proves why Jimin is the undisputed king of the 360-degree stage. This isn't a bold claim. This is fact, this is news, and it has already happened in front of hundreds of thousands of eyes all around the world. But before we get into Jimin's actual performances, we need to talk about the stage itself. Because the BTS Arirang World Tour stage is unlike anything we've seen in K-pop before. BTS officially announced their 2026 to 2027 World Tour with a total of 85 shows across 34 cities in 23 countries. This is BTS's first major tour since permission to dance on stage back in 2021 to 2022. And it marks their massive comeback after every single member completed their mandatory military service. What makes this tour fundamentally different from everything that came before it, different from almost every K-pop tour that has ever existed, is the stage concept itself, a full 360-degree in the round stage. The stage sits right in the center of the stadium, not on one side, not near one end, dead center, with 4 catwalks extending outward toward every corner of the arena. So no matter where you're sitting, left, right, behind the stage, the farthest seat in the building, you will get a moment when BTS comes to you. This is the first time a K-pop group has used a fully circular, center-floor stage design for an entire world tour. Taylor Swift and Beyoncé have used this concept before, but in the K-pop world, BTS is the pioneer doing it at this scale. The design allows more seats to be filled at each venue while guaranteeing a visually equal experience for the entire crowd. But of course, a stage like this also demands far more from the performers. You can't hide on one side anymore. Every move, every expression, every single second on stage, seen from every direction. And Park Jimin? He didn't just rise to that challenge. He thrived in it. Before we break down the Arirang World Tour city by city, we need to talk about who Jimin actually is as a performer, because none of what you're about to hear is an accident. It is the result of 13 years of uncompromising dedication. Jimin debuted as BTS's main dancer in 2013. He trained at Busan Arts High School with a classical contemporary dance background, spending years developing multiple genres: contemporary, hip-hop, locking, popping. That rare combination gave birth to what the ARMY community now calls the Jimin genre, an artistic style that fuses the grace of classical dance with the raw power of urban movement. In the global Top 100 Best Male Dances 2026 vote held by international voting site Dabeam, Jimin ranked number 1 for 8 consecutive years running since 2019. 8 years in a row. In the global Best Dancer vote by the Kooky app, Jimin again claimed first place with over 2 million total votes and 94% support. But those numbers are just the reflection of something much deeper. Jimin's ability to transform a stage from a performance space into a living work of art. Fans and critics have long called him a stage genius, and that title is not hyperbole. One of his most iconic solo moments was his Serendipity stage during the Love Yourself World Tour in 2019, where he used a flowing white cloth to accentuate seemingly weightless leaps and effortless movements, a performance critics described as poetry in motion. At the Map of the Soul On concert in 2020, his Filter stage with Latin-inspired choreography became a cultural moment, blending charisma, precise technique, and a magnetic stage presence that left no one in the audience unaffected. And now, in the 2026 Arirang World Tour, all of that skill collides with the most demanding stage format ever built, 360 degrees, with no safe side to retreat to. April 9th, 2026. Goyang Stadium, South Korea. BTS opened the Arirang World Tour before thousands of ARMY who had been waiting years for this moment. It was BTS's first live performance as a complete group in 4 years, and the expectations could not have been higher. Jimin did not just meet those expectations. He surpassed them. On opening night in Goyang, Jimin immediately used the 360-degree stage structure in his own way. He was never static. He moved. He ran through the catwalks. He reached every corner. And with the stagecraft he has been sharpening for over a decade, he made every fan in every section of that stadium feel as though Jimin was performing specifically for them. The thing that went immediately viral from Goyang was his voice. ARMY flooded social media with creative phrases like Jimin taking Spotify out of his throat, their way of describing the purity and power of his voice filling the entire stadium. During Fire, a song that is physically brutal to perform, with fast, high-energy choreography throughout. Even while clearly out of breath from a sequence of intense movements, Jimin continued to deliver explosive high notes that rang through the whole building. This is not a small thing. Singing while moving intensely, especially while sprinting down a long catwalk, is a staggering technical challenge. And Jimin did it while smiling. Jin, his fellow BTS member, admitted in an interview that preparing for the 360-degree stage was not easy. The preparation hasn't been easy with the 360-degree stage, but once it starts, I think it's going to be really fun, he said. And he was right. Once it started, something remarkable happened. Jimin found his natural habitat. From Goyang, BTS headed straight to Japan. Tokyo Dome, one of the most iconic venues in all of Asia, became the second stop of the Arirang World Tour on April 17th and 18th, 2026. And this is where Jimin introduced a new dimension to his already stunning performances. The perfect balance between vocals and movement on the 360-degree stage. In Goyang, audiences were already blown away. In Tokyo Dome, Jimin raised the bar again. He appeared with new long blonde hair, a look that caught fans' attention immediately, with many comparing it to a protagonist from a comic book. But naturally, the visuals were just the packaging. What was inside is what shook Tokyo Dome to its core. During Crystal Snow, a Japanese-language song that appeared as part of the impromptu stage order on the first night, Jimin delivered vocals described as having a stardust tone, a voice so distinct and emotionally resonant that it drew enthusiastic cheers throughout the entire performance. During Fire, which once again became a highlight of the evening, not a single high note wavered despite the physical intensity of everything happening around it. Fans who attended reported that the single most unforgettable moment was watching Jimin walk from the main stage to the very end of a catwalk and sing directly toward the farthest section of the stadium, making sure that not one corner of Tokyo Dome felt forgotten. On the 360-degree stage, Jimin doesn't have a favorite corner. Every corner is his favorite. Then came America, where the energy of the American army, loud and explosive by reputation, was already waiting. And at Tampa Stadium in Florida, Jimin pulled out a card that doesn't exist in any planned set list: pure freestyle. During Pepsi, chosen as an impromptu song that night, Jimin made the decision to leave the set choreography entirely behind and dance completely freestyle. Spontaneous movement, driven purely by the instincts of a performer who has spent 13 years mastering his own body and the space around him. And what made this moment truly special was that Jimin did not freestyle in one spot. He moved through every section of the catwalk extending out into the stadium. He connected with fans on the left, on the right, in the front, and in the farthest corner, as if holding a private show for each group, one by one. Fancam videos capturing this moment went viral almost immediately. People around the world were stunned not just by the quality of the dancing, but by Jimin's extraordinary stage awareness, his ability to read a room, feel the audience, and respond in a way that felt completely genuine and completely unplanned. Jimin even earned a new nickname from American fans, Jimin America, a blend of his name and the country, reflecting the extraordinary response he received in the United States, where his popularity continues to reach new heights. Fans even organized dedicated support projects for his American performances. If you thought Tampa was the peak, wait until you hear what happened in Mexico City. At Estadio GNP Seguros, the fifth stop of the world tour after Goyang, Tokyo, Tampa, and El Paso, Jimin delivered something that made the entire stadium physically catch its breath. During the impromptu song stage, Jimin recreated an ultra-difficult acrobatic move from We Are Bulletproof PT2, precisely as he had performed it a decade ago. The move involved spinning through the air without touching the ground with his hands, a side flip requiring extraordinary strength, split-second timing, and sheer nerve. The stadium erupted. The Mexican crowd, already known for being among the most passionate in the world, responded with a wave of screaming, thunderous applause, and stunned tears. Videos from every angle of the stadium. And remember, because of the 360-degree stage, nearly every person in the building had a great shot, spread across the globe within hours. What made it even more remarkable was that Jimin performed the move not on the wide main stage, but on the catwalk, out in the middle of the crowd, extending toward the fans, so that no one could possibly miss it. That is the genius of Jimin on a 360-degree stage. He understands that the format is not a challenge to manage. It's a tool to use, a weapon to wield in the name of art. Now you might be wondering, why is it Jimin who keeps appearing as the standout performer in the context of this 360-degree stage format? All 7 BTS members perform together after all. Every single member is extraordinary. But there are 4 specific qualities that make Jimin genuinely exceptional in this particular stage format. The first is extreme mobility. Jimin is a performer who is always in motion. Even in quiet, slow moments, his body is always speaking. On a 360-degree stage with 4 catwalks stretching in every direction, that mobility becomes a massive advantage. He consistently reaches more corners than any average performer would. The second is improvisation. As we saw in Tampa in Mexico, Jimin is not afraid to go off script. His freestyle is not random. It is the pure expression of a dancer who has so completely mastered his own body and spatial awareness that improvisation feels indistinguishable from choreography that was prepared for years. The third is spatial awareness. This is a genuinely rare quality. Not every performer has the ability to read a stadium, to feel which section has been underserved, which area needs acknowledgement, which corner will ignite if he walks toward it. Jimin has that radar built in, and it operates on pure instinct. The fourth is vocal movement duality. On a 360-degree stage, there is no hiding. You cannot stand still to sing a difficult note and pretend that was intentional. Jimin's vocal quality, including his ability to deliver high notes in the middle of intense physical movement, is precisely what this format demands, and he delivers it every single night. We also need to understand the broader picture of what is happening here. The BTS Arirang World Tour is not just a series of concerts. It is one of the biggest cultural events of 2026. The tour spans 85 shows across 34 cities in 23 countries, covering Asia, North America, Latin America, Europe, Australia, and beyond. Tickets across South Korea, North America, and Europe sold out within hours of the pre-sale opening. Mexico's government was moved to publicly respond to the overwhelming demand for tickets, which tells you everything you need to know about the scale of the cultural impact. The 360-degree stage design used throughout this tour is the first time in K-pop history that a group has committed to this format for an entire world tour. It is not simply about fitting more seats into a venue. It is a philosophy, a belief that every single fan, regardless of where they sit, deserves an equally outstanding experience. And Jimin, with his mobility, his improvisation, his spatial awareness, and his vocal strength, is the living embodiment of that philosophy. One more thing we absolutely have to cover: Jimin's solo moment within the Arirang World Tour. Jimin is given a dedicated section of the set list to perform a medley of his solo hits, including Like Crazy, the track that reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and Who, the song that earned him the Best K-pop Award at the MTV Europe Music Awards in 2024. Who itself carries remarkable history. It became the first song by a solo K-pop artist to hold a position in the Billboard Hot 100 Top 25 for 3 consecutive weeks from its initial release. And now, on the 360-degree stage of the Arirang World Tour, Jimin brings these songs into an entirely new dimension. Imagine a stadium full of fans encircling the stage from every side, a single spotlight following one figure, Park Jimin, moving through the catwalk while pouring everything he is into like crazy. There are no words fully adequate to describe the intensity of that moment. And because of the 360-degree stage, not one fan watches it from a bad angle. So there it is. Not just singing, not just dancing. Park Jimin of BTS is a complete performer who has turned every corner of a 360-degree stage into his personal canvas. From Goyang to Tokyo, from Tampa to Mexico City, and with so many more cities still ahead on the tour, Jimin continues to prove exactly why he's called a stage genius. Not because of an empty title, but because of real, documented moments that have spread across thousands of fancam videos, international media reviews, and the irreplaceable memories of hundreds of thousands of ARMY who were there in person. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who appreciates the genuine art of live performance. Or at the very least, you now have every reason to fall in love with Jimin if you weren't already. Drop a comment below. Which city's footage are you most desperate to see? And to every international ARMY watching, are you ready for your city on this tour? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this content is not stopping, and the Arirang World Tour has a long, incredible road still ahead of it. See you in the next one. Stay purple, ARMY. Purple Heart.